How are you doing, YouTube? It's your friendly gamer, SmartEntity here. Welcome to another episode of Smart Talk, where I answer common questions that players have forwarded to me, as well as address some of the issues that I found to be an issue in the game in recent weeks. So most of today's discussion will be surrounding the Prime mods, and the question, how the F am I supposed to max 2 Prime mods in 2 weeks period? Now, I can't answer that question, but what I can answer are 2 questions that have been very popular and coming up recently, and that is, 1, are the Prime mods significant? And 2, are they worth it? Now, do the Prime mods make a significant difference? Yes, they do. Hell yes, no doubt about it. Are they worth it? No, they are not. Now, why do these 2 questions have different answers? And the simple answer to that is because this is a PvE game, right? This is player versus enemy. Now, this is pretty obvious to most people, but I'll just quickly mention, so a Prime mod compared to a regular mod basically does twice the amount of benefit a regular mod does minus the base stats. So what that means is, for a Prime point blank at max, it does twice the amount that a normal point blank would do, i.e. it'll be 90 times 2, which is 180, minus the base stats, which is 180 minus 15, which equals 165. So a maxed primed point blank will do 165% extra damage, well, not extra, just pure base damage, versus the 90% base damage that a point blank would do. Now, with something like prime point blank, which does base damage, the math is exactly just that. It does so much more damage, it's obviously significant, but with something like, I guess, primed flow, so I've sold my prime flow and continuity already, but if we bring up normal flow, which is here, so normal flow does 150% extra energy reserve, so a primed flow will do 150 times 2, which is 300, minus 25, which is 275. So a max prime flow will do a additional 275% extra energy reserve. Now, that is more than just the math itself, because that would make the rage and QT combo more significant. So what that means is, without primed flow, I probably would use something like redirection Nova Prime, because redirection is one mod, it gives as much protection as rage and QT almost. But with primed flow, rage and QT actually gives a lot more survivability compared to redirection alone for something like Nova Prime or Mesa, because with max redirection alone, they have about 500-ish shield. Without that redirection, they still have, I don't know, 200 or something, 300. And with max primed flow, yes, we are using rage and QT, so 2 mods instead of max redirection, but it gives so much more survivability. So for some of these prime mods, it's more than just the number itself, it gives a lot more, I guess, utility as well. So because of that, they make a significant difference. So why do I say they're not worth it? Well, as I said, it's PvE. So if we look at something like primed point blank, if we need 1 shot to kill an enemy with primed point blank, that means at most, right, RNG aside, we'll need 2 shots to kill an enemy without prime point blank. That, who cares, right? So what? It's a PvE game. Instead of fire 1 shot, fire 2 shot. No problem, right? That's fine. With something like, primed flow, yes, there's a utility difference, but let's face it, when do we really need that utility? It'll be above 60-minute T4 survival or equivalent, i.e. when we're facing over level 100 enemies. I mean, how often do we face level 100 enemies plus? Most of the time, if you're in a random squad, most people will want to get out at around 40-minute mark. If you were, if you're with some decent people, they may decide to stay to 60, but no one stays beyond 60 unless you're trying to prove something, right? Unless you're trying to actually do something. Because at this stage in the game, there are no better rewards for staying beyond 60 minutes. So for that reason, yes, max flow and max continuity and whatnot probably give some utility bonuses, but it's not significant because most of the time this game is so easy, the enemy is so easy, you don't need it. Now, obviously, if we get a proper PvP component, then these mods would be significant because the player using these mods would have a significant advantage over players that do not have these mods. And in that sense, the player with these mods would win or should win 99% of the time, if not 100%. But until then, I wouldn't worry too much about these mods. But having said that, I'll quickly do a quick tutorial now. I did do a modding tutorial quickly in one of my recent videos, but I'll do that again here, just to prove a point. So, like I said before, to max a primed mod, you need 525 rarefied fusion, in addition to 1.6632 million credits. Now, to go to rank 9, we will need half of that, which is 264, and obviously half them in the credits. Now, notice with max primed point blank, we'll call it PPB from now. So with maxed PPB, you get 165%. Versus normal point blank, which is 90%. So that's huge, right? But with rank 9, you get 150 instead of the 90. That is still an additional 60% damage, base damage increase. That's still huge. And if we go a bit more further, we'll do half of that, which is 134. So we'll go to rank 8. With rank 8, we need 25% of the mods to go to rank 10, as well as 25% of the credit to go to rank 10. And we're still getting 135% extra damage, so that's still an additional 45% extra damage compared to a normal point blank. I mean, in my opinion, that's still pretty good, right? So these are some of the things that a lot of people should consider. Some of the questions or comments I get from people is, I've been with the game for 1,500 hours, or you've been with the game for 1,500 hours and whatnot. We should max these mods immediately as they come out. No, just think about when you max your first iteration. It took you hundreds of hours to max that first iteration. And we really need to get back to that mentality where, don't expect to have everything at max immediately. We do have to work for these things. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, a surprising amount of players have actually asked me recently what I think these mods will release, because the game is already very easy, and the fact that now we have these mods which are directly better versions of the previous mods is going to make an already easy game much easier. Now, before I continue, I just want to quickly mention two things. The first is I don't work with DE, I am just another player like you guys, so I don't know any more than what you guys know, and what I'm going to say is what I think. And obviously I'm not sponsored by anyone, so the benefit of that is I can say whatever I want. The second thing I'm going to say is, what I'm going to say may sound a bit harsh on DE, but I truly do believe DE is a great company. They allow us to play this game for free. They obviously are profit focused, just like any other company, because they need to be. If they don't get any profit, they will have to shut the game down, which is not something we want. So that aside, now, they release a prime mod. So with any game, right, once you release a product into the game, that product will decrease in value as time goes by, because that product is there. Players will keep on getting more and more of that product, but that product will never disappear. A good example is something like the stances. When the stunts first come out, people will pay 50 to 100 plat for it. 6 months down the track, it's worth 20 plat if it's good, it's worth 5 plat if it's shit. If you look at something like Nova Prime, when Nova Prime first came out, each part was worth around 100 to 150 plat. Now, each part is around 40 plat, if that. And that's a fact, because once you get the part, it's never going to disappear. Sure, you can make it into Nova Prime, but then you get Nova Prime, right? That part is, strictly speaking, not disappeared. And with the stunts, once you get the stunts, unless someone's stupid enough to fuse it or sell it, that stunt is always going to be in the game. So over time, the value of these products will decrease, and if nothing happens, then plat sales will decrease. So a good way for DE to counter that is to release more products, right? So the more product they release, the more plat sales they will do, because players will buy plat from DE and then will trade that plat to other players. So they will increase profit that way. Now, prime mods are unlike anything we've seen before, right? Because unlike something like a stance, you get the stance, you sell it, done. Prime mods serve DE's profit via 3 routes, 2 direct routes and 1 indirect route. So the first direct route is prime mods at baseline are worth a lot to get. So they are worth ducats, a lot of them. They are worth credits, a fair amount of it, and the fact that they're on rotation, which means they're not always in the game. Obviously not as bad as some of the event mods, but they are on rotation, and as of recording of this video, we still haven't seen the first rotation back yet, and we've seen 3 rotations already. So So because of these three reasons, they are worth quite a bit at baseline. Now the second direct route that prime mods can give D a lot of profit is they are worth a shit ton to max. As I just shown you guys, it takes 528 rare 5s plus over 1.6 million credit to max. Now that in itself, like I said in my previous video, prime mods you're looking at about over 600 plat. It's actually going for a lot more these days. I'll explain a bit more on that a bit later on. But basically, so the second direct route is it requires a ton of cores and a ton of credit to max. So in that sense, they're actually worth a lot. Now the indirect route that prime mods can give D a lot of credit is they cost 1 million trading tax. So if you think about a player that have a lot of credits, have a lot of platinum. Previously, with something like Max Blind Rage, you give the other guy some platinum, the other guy give you Max Blind Rage, the other guy pays for the tax for the platinum, you pay 8,000 credits for the Max Blind Rage tax. But with Prime Point Blank or any prime mod, you need 1 million credits. Now, how does that give the profit? Well, simple. If you want the mods and you don't have the credit, what you do, you buy a bloody booster, right? You need to pay 80 plat for a credit booster. Now, boosters are something that is very controversial. I consider myself to be pretty experienced with this game. I consider myself to play this game more than I should, more than that is healthy. But despite that, I don't feel credit boosters or any boosters are worth it in my opinion. Mainly because I don't play the game enough. For some players, I do know a couple guys. They basically have boosters running 365 days a year, or several months and whatnot, because they play the game a shit ton, and boosters are worth it for them. So take this for example. I met this other guy. He was saying he does about 100 T4 exterminate in a day. Takes a few hours, and that'll give him I can't remember what it is, but basically a few million credits, right? So actually I'll do a quick math over here in the background quickly. So if we talk about 26,000 credits per run times by 100, that'll give you 2.6 million. So that with a credit booster will give you 5.2 million. So you take that for example, he will get 5.2 million with a credit booster. I will get 2.6 million with a credit booster. So if you play the game a lot, credit boosters obviously make a huge difference. I've played this game over 15,000 hours. I've never bought a single credit booster or any booster for that matter. I don't plan to. But basically, that should give you guys an idea of how, this indirect route can help DE make profit, help them make profit directly, but indirectly increase the value of these mods. So obviously, when you buy a booster, that platinum directly go to DE as opposed to going to another player. So that's direct profit for them. So that's an indirect route that prime mods can give the profit. Now the last area I want to mention that's also kind of related to these prime mods are the removal of T4 times 5 key bundles from the syndicates. Now previously, depending on what syndicate you were with, you can get 5 T4 keys for 5,000 standing. Now you basically get,
these are a bargain.
I think it's 3, I can't remember how many, but basically you get a key bundle, but only one of them is T3 or T4, and you have to pay 25,000 standing to get that key pack. Now the reason that DE said they removed it is because you were getting 2 for the price of 1 or something along those lines. The reason I think they removed it was because if you take something like bow handle, right? Bow handle before the syndicate and whatnot was pretty much going for 50 plat each. Once the syndicate came out, after a couple of weeks, the bow handles were going around 20 plat each because bow handle dropped from T4 exterminate. Because it's so much easier to get T4 keys, the bow handle prices were obviously decreasing, and I think DE was kind of feeling the prices are too low and they want to increase plat sales obviously, so they removed them to make them harder to get and increase the value, the plat value of prime parts in trade. Now that's fine. I mean, it's their game, they can do whatever they want. But the problem with that is from a player perspective, I don't think anyone thinks they were getting 2 for the price of 1, because at the end of the day, the keys are just missions. You still have to play the mission. So if you think about T4 captures, which is what parent sequence used to be, if you're playing the mission right, you're getting basically 20 to 50 standing per run. Right? 20 to 50 on the 5,000 standing is nothing. If you're talking about T4 survival, you will need to, on average, run about 10-minute runs to get 1,000 standing. Obviously, with any kind of mission, it depends on what frames you're using, what techniques, abilities, combos you're using. But on average, you're looking at about 10 minutes per run on a T4 survival to get 1,000 standing. With T4 defense, again, you're looking at about 10 waves. With T4 interception, you need 1 wave to get about 1,000 standing. So what that means is, say if we take survival, because that is direct measure of time, you need to run each key for 10 minutes, you need to run 5 keys for 50 minutes. So only after 50 minutes do you get enough standing, i.e. 5,000, to get another 5 T4 keys. So in my opinion, that is not 2 for the price of 1. Sure, you're getting credits, sure, you're getting prime pass, real 5 cores, and all that other good stuff, but that's because you played the game, right? Not because you're getting it for free. So I definitely don't feel, they should have removed the T4 times 5 bundles, because the result is, I think they reduced a lot of playability by players. I definitely played the game a lot less since they removed it. I played a bit more ever since the Space Ninja 3-day booster code, but since then I haven't played much at all. And I know some of my friends, some of my viewers haven't played the game as much either, just because when they removed the T4 bundles, the game became a lot more boring, because you had to again farm for the keys and all that kind of stuff. You don't play a lot more voids. And also, obviously, by removing T4 bundles, you're removing the single best source of rare 5 cores, and that again obviously makes maxing prime mods a lot harder. It makes them worth a bit more. Now in my previous video, my trading video, I said the prime mods were going around 6 to 650 platinum. That obviously was the case back then, but now the prime mods have again increased in price. And the reason for that, again, is because of what I just said, that sort of supply demand. By continuously releasing prime mods and by removing T4 keys, DE have pretty much starved the community of rare cores, not to mention credits. And as a result, to max these mods cost a lot more than what they used to, because there's a lot less of what there used to be. So the plat cost actually increased. Now to get a primed mod, you're looking at around 800 to 1,000 platinum per max prime mod. Now there's also a side effect to this. Because so many rare 5 cores are gone from the game by maxing prime mods or whatnot, normal rank 10s cost a lot more as well, so your macerations have increased in price. For a point in time, macerations are going for 150 plat. These days you're looking more to the 200, 250. Your rare rank 10s have increased in price as well. For the longest period of time, rare 10s have actually stabilized in price at around 400 plat. These days they have again increased in price to around 450 to 500 platinum, just because rare 5 cores are just not that abundant anymore, and it's much harder to get them. Okay, so what does this all mean for you the player? So let me sum this up. At the end of the day, prime mods are significant. I wouldn't say they're worth maxing or they're worth spending 1,000 plat on, just because they don't give you a significant difference in the game currently in this PvE game. So the recommendations is you get your prime mod, you rank it up more than your normal mod, you use it. Don't worry about maxing it. Keep on ranking it as you go. 100 hours later you might max it, no problem. But in the meantime, just use them, right? Don't worry about maxing it. The second point to take away from this is if you have a non-primed max rank 10 mod, something like Serration, Heavy Caliber, Narrow Minded, or Essential rank 10 mods, sell it if you really need plat, because chances are you can get more than what you would have gotten 2 months ago. But keep it if you don't need the plat, because chances are you can probably sell it for more 2 months later than what you can sell it for now. Alright guys, so as usual, please like, comment and subscribe. As usual, any questions, leave in the comments below. I will try to answer them. And other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.